back with another video. I've paused my words. Cannot get them out. Beep, boop, beep. Cringe. Is that a value of society? Is my being a clown valuable to society? Apparently not, because I don't get the views on this YouTube thing. It's all about making money. Algebraic models. Often, economic models or parts of models are expressed in terms of mathematical functions. What is a function? A function describes a relationship. Sometimes the relationship is a definition. For example, using words, your professor is Adam Smith. This could be expressed as professor equals Adam Smith. Or friends equal Bob plus Sean plus Margaret. Okay. I see what they're putting down. They spitting a sheet. A menudo, en economía, las funciones describen causa y efecto. La variable en el lado izquierdo es lo que se está explicando, el efecto. En el lado derecho está lo que lo explica. Por ejemplo, supongamos que tu GPA se determinó de la siguiente manera. GPA, I'm going to say this in English, equals 0.25 times combined stat plus 0.25 times class attendance plus 0.50 times hours spent studying. This equation states that your GPA depends on three things: your combined stat score, your class attendance, and the number of hours you spend studying. It also says that study time is twice as important as either combined SAT score or class attendance. If this relationship is true, how could you raise your GPA? By not skipping class and studying more. Note that you cannot do anything about your SAT score, since if you are in college, you presumably have already taken the SATs. Of course, economic models express relationships using variables like budget equals economy spent on econ books, or money spent on econ books plus money spent on music, assuming that the only things you buy are economics books and music. Most of the relationship we use in this course are expressed as linear equations of the form y equals b plus mx. So, it's been a while since I've done anything remotely related to mathematicas. So, that little section that I just read there kind of reopened a floodgate, a small floodgate of when I was in math. And personally, I rather like the idea of math being used to describe being used verbally, I should say. So like a fulfilling life equals feelings towards family plus feelings towards career plus feelings about personal like your personal identity. So like, yeah, that's pretty interesting. Like, in that way you can use math to like using undefinable qualities, right? Like, how do you define or measure numerically how someone feels about themselves, right? Like, people try, right? People like put a scale and they're like, on a scale of 0 to 10, how do you feel about yourself, you know? And it's just like, well, define feel and define yourself, you know? Like, it can like infinitely go deeper. So um, we need to revamp the way we grade in this country. Expressing equations graphically. Okay. Express. Again, I am doing this in both English and Spanish. A little bit of a mix. Um, I am on a bit of a time crunch, so I can't be as engulfed in the Spanish as I want to be. I have to switch between the two just for the sake of moving forward at a at a pace where I can complete the assignments that I need to complete, because I have to read 2 of these chapters in this week, which is, doable. It's definitely doable as long as we get to it. So um, graphs are useful for 2 purposes. The first is to express equations visually, and the second is to display statistics or data. This section will discuss expressing equations visually. Okay, and now we switch to Spanish. Para un matemático o un economista, una variable, and I'm going to put this in casual. Una variable es el nombre que se le da a una cantidad que puede tomar distintos valores. En la ecuación de una línea que vimos arriba, x e y son las variables, con x en el eje horizontal y y en el eje vertical, y b y m representan los factores que determinan la forma de la línea. Para entender cómo funciona esta ecuación, vamos a ver un ejemplo numérico. Y equals 9 plus 3x. In this equation for a specific line, the b term has been set to equal 9, and the m term has been set to equal 3. To construct the table, just plug in a series of different values for x and then calculate what the value of y results. In the figure, these points are plotted and a line is drawn through them. That's the part of math that I like. The plug in part, and then like place the plug in place, right? You plug in a number, you place it on a graph. I like that a lot. As I'm yawning. Okay, slope of the algebra of straight lines. This line graph has x on the horizontal axis and y on the vertical axis. The y-intercept, that is, the point where the line intersects the y-axis, is 9. Okay. The slope of the line is 3. That is, there is a rise of 3 on the vertical axis for every increase of 1 on the horizontal. The slope is the same all along a straight line. This example illustrates how the b and the m terms in an equation for a straight line determines the shape of the line. The b term is called the y-intercept. The reason for this name is that if x equals 0, then the b term will reveal where the line intercepts or crosses the y-axis. In this example, the line hits the vertical axis at 9. The m term in the equation for the line is the slope. Remember that the slope is defined as rise over run. More specifically, the slope of a line from one point to the other is the change in the vertical axis divided by the change in the horizontal axis. In this example, each time the x term increases by 1, the y term rises by 3. Thus, the slope of this line is 3, specifying a y-intercept and a slope. That is, specifying b and m in the equation for a line will identify a specific line. Although it is rare for real-world data points to arrange themselves as an exact straight line, it often turns out that a straight line can offer a reasonable approximation of actual data. Rise over run, I haven't heard that term since like pre-calc in college. Or algebra 2 or whatever. Baby, my brain is hurting. Interpreting the slope. The concept of slope is very useful in economics because it measures the relationship between two variables. A positive slope means that two variables are positively related. That is, when x increases, so does y. Or when x decreases, y decreases also. Graphically, a positive slope means that a line on the graph moves from left to right. The line rises with it. The length weights, and by the way, that also lends itself to like that's how we do it, right? We would read a graph from left to right as a positive incline because that's how we've set up our our system as Americans. In China, they don't read from left to right. They literally read from right to left. And no, did I say China? That's Japan. China reads up and down, right? So they would have different graphs. It's an imperfect world that we have because I'm under the assumption that that's not the most effective way, because the way I'm looking at it is very logical. Like, that's not the most effective way of like communicating information. Then again, there are many different ways of communicating information. There's no one way. So how can we say something is effective if maybe we just don't understand it yet, assuming that there's a reason behind it, which there isn't. I'm talking metaphorically. The concept of slope is very useful in economics because it measures the relationship between two variables. A positive slope means that two variables are positively related. That is, when x increases, so does y. Okay, yeah, we read that already. The length-weight relationship, shown in figure 8.3 later in this appendix, has a positive slope. We will learn in other chapters that price and quantity supplied have a positive relationship. I'm just prepping for when we read this next part in Spanish, because we gotta keep it fresh in the mind. Gotta keep it fresh. You know what I'm saying? I want to be wanted like Carmen. We will learn in other chapters that price and quantity supplied have a positive relationship. That is, firms will supply more when the price is higher. Una pendiente negativa significa que dos variables. Pendiente quiere decir el slope. Una pendiente negativa significa que dos variables están relacionadas de manera negativa. Es decir, cuando x aumenta, y disminuye. O cuando x disminuye, y aumenta. Gráficamente, una pendiente negativa significa que a medida que la línea del gráfico se mueve de izquierda a derecha, la línea baja. la relación entre la altitud y la densidad del aire que se muestra en la figura más adelante en este apéndice. Tiene una pendiente negativa. Aprenderemos que el precio y la cantidad demandada tienen una relación negativa. Es decir, los consumidores comprarán menos cuando el precio sea más alto. I gotta read that in English. A negative slope means that two variables are negatively related. That is, when x increases, y decreases. No. Una pendiente negativa significa que dos variables están relacionadas de manera negativa, es decir, cuando x aumenta, y disminuye, o cuando x disminuye, y aumenta. Déjame mirarlo en mi cerebro. Ujú, ujú. Gráficamente, una pendiente negativa significa que a medida que la línea del gráfico se mueve a izquierda, a derecha, la línea baja. La densidad del aire tiene un pendiente negativa. La altitud y la densidad. Y si las empresas quieren vender más cuando los precios aumentan, ¿qué quiere decir que los... Entonces, cómo, cómo funciona cuando los consumidores compran menos cuando el precio sea más alto? Supply and demand, huh? Okay. Okay. So let's keep it going. Let's keep it moving. It is 1:15 right now, and I've got 2 chapters to read and assignments to complete by Saturday. And deadlines Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday, which is crazy. A slope of 0 means that there is no relationship between x and y. Graphically, the line is flat. That is, 0 rise over run. The unemployment rate shown later illustrates a common pattern of many line graphs. Some segments where the slope is positive, slope is negative, and still other segments where the slope is close to 0. Ok, vamos a hacer un pausa aquí, porque this is a long read. No se acaba hasta... o se acaba en más páginas. y quiero leer el capítulo 2. Necesito leer capítulo 2. Woo. Ok. ¿Cómo se llama? Capítulo 2. Choice in a world of scarcity. Ok. Muy bien. La escasez. Let's double check. Escasez.
Escasez.
Escasez. Escasez. Okay, choices and trade-offs. Let's do a little adjustment here. Ooh. I want to be wanted like I'm in. Everybody's putting their heart in. Okay. In general, the higher the degree, the higher the salary. Ooh la la. The higher the salary. Wait, so why aren't more people pursuing higher degrees? Choices and trade-offs. Double. Chapter objectives. Shoutouts to whoever made it. Chapter objectives. In this chapter, you will learn about. Okay, we're just gonna go ahead and skip that part. Introduction to choice in a world of scarcity. Ooh, do. Choices. To what degree does your level of education impact earning? Let's look at some data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. In 2020, among full-time wage and salary workers, median family earnings for those with a master's degree were multiply this average by 52 weeks and you get an annual earning. Compare that to the median weekly earnings for full-time workers age 25 over with just a bachelor's degree. What about those with no higher than a high school diploma? They earn an average of just... And that's where we get into philosophy. In other words, data from Blackluster Soldier indicates that receiving a bachelor's degree boosts earnings by 67% over what workers would have earned if they only obtained a high school diploma. And a master's degree yields average earnings that are nearly double those of workers with a high school diploma. And that's where we get into the philosophy. The philosophy, la philosophy. Philosophy. Filosófico. Filosofía. 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 That's probably how they would say it. Money doesn't buy happiness, so they say. So they say. How many hours are you working? What's your, desire? Some people are very happy working FedEx. I'm not. I hate working FedEx. And then I worry, does that make me better than people? Because that's what they would say. Oh, you're better than me. And it's like, you just hate yourself. Get over it. Get over yourself. Given these statistics, we might expect many people to choose to go to college and at least earn a bachelor's degree. Let's follow that train of thought. If everyone is special, then no one is what I've heard in movies. Do we take that at face value? Do we pry into that a little bit deeper? I think for the sake of time here, we're going to keep going. Assuming that people want to improve their material well-being, it seems like they would make those choices that provide them with the greatest opportunity to consume goods and services. As it turns out, the analysis is not nearly as simple as this. In fact, in 2019, the BLS reported And I'm just gonna go ahead and put these on. The BLS reported that while just over 90% of the population aged 25 and over in the United States had a high school diploma, only 36% of those aged 25 and over had a bachelor's or higher degree, and only 13.5% had earned a master's or higher. This brings us to the subject of this chapter: why people make choices they make, and how uh, economia, economists, how do you say economist in Spanish? We're going to go ahead and economists, economistas, economistas, um, explain those choices. Okay, well, that's what I'm here for, right? Like, I'm taking this class because I'm pursuing um, work in the field of the mind, right? Like, I'm pursuing my BA in public affairs, and then I'm going to take that, build off of that to earn my master's in social work. I'm setting up the rest of my life here. It's a small chunk in comparison. Let's fucking do this. Everybody's throwing their heart in. You will learn quickly, when you examine the relationship between economics and scarcity, that choices involve trade-offs. Every choice has a cost. In 1968, the Rolling Stones recorded "You Can't Always Get What You Want." Economists chuckled because they had been singing a similar tune for decades. Um, English English economist Lionel Robbins, in his essay of the nature and significance of economic science, described not always getting what you want in this way. Uh, the time at our disposal is limited. There are only 24 hours in the day. We have to choose between the different uses to which they may be put. Actually, I'm going to read the rest of this in Spanish. Google Translate, help me out here. Or I should say Bing Translate. Bing, bop, boom, boom, bing, bop, bam. What's going on? Donde quiera que miremos, si elegimos una cosa, tenemos que renunciar a otras que, en diferentes circunstancias, desearíamos no haber tenido que dejar de lado. La falta de recursos para satisfacer ciertos fines en casi una condición general. No puedo entender qué está diciendo. Vamos a verlo en formal manera. En todas partes a donde nos volvamos, everywhere we turn, si elegimos una cosa, debemos renunciar a otras. If we choose one thing, we must relinquish others, which in different circumstances we would wish to not have relinquished. Wow, that's a fucked up sentence in English and in Spanish. Debemos renunciar a otras que en diferentes circunstancias desearíamos no haber tenido que renunciar. La escasez de medios para satisfacer fines. What is that saying? Scarcity of means. La escasez de medios to satisfy given ends, para satisfacer fines dados. In an almost ubiquitous condition of human nature. Ubiquitous, like omnipresente de la naturaleza humana. Okay, there you go. There, I said it. Got nothing from it. Because people live in a world of scarcity. They cannot have all the time money, possessions, and experiences they wish. Neither can society. Okay, this chapter will continue to discuss our discussion of scarcity in the economic way of thinking by first introducing three critical concepts: opportunity cost, marginal decision making, and diminishing returns. Later, it will consider whether the economic way of thinking accurately describes either how we make choices and how we should make them. And I kind of struggle with that personally too. Making decisions, trusting myself to make decisions. I've been in therapy for 5 years trying to figure that shit out. Just gotta trust that we know what we're doing, huh? Make decisions and roll with it. Follow through. Keep going. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and translate this into Spanish. Don't want to take too much time on it. Como los individuos toman decisiones basadas en su restricción presupuestaria. Como la gente toma decisiones según su presupuesto. Como los individuos toman decisiones basadas en su restricción presupuestaria. Según. Huh. Uh-huh. Como los individuos toman decisiones basadas en su presupuestaria. En su presupuesto. Como los individuos toman decisiones basadas en su presupuesto. Okay, adelante. Okay, we're going to skip the learning objectives. We're going to go straight down to consider the typical consumer's budget problem. The typical consumer's budget problem: food, gas, rent, just to name a few. These days it's eggs, right? Consumers have a limited amount of income to spend on the things that they need and want. And you can go even deeper, like, we're talking about psychology, right? Like, do you need to have those big old bags of fries? Probably not. You choose what you want, you earn the money, and you can decide what you want to spend it on. And there's no judgment, right? We're not judging. In my field of work, we practice non judgment. So, suppose Alfonso has $10 in spending money each week that he can allocate between bus tickets for getting to work and the burgers that he eats for lunch. But burgers cost 2 each and the bus tickets are 50 cents each. We can see Alfonso's budget problem in figure 2.2. Um, mm-hmm. The budget constraint. Alfonso's consumption choice opportunity frontier. What the fuck are those amalgamation of words, man? Each point on the budget constraint represents a combination of burgers and bus tickets whose total cost adds up to Alfonso's budget of $10. So on the x-axis is bus tickets, on the y-axis is burgers. Um, mm, mm. All along the budget. Okay, so this is pretty cool. I find this part to be really fucking cool. Also, this needs to be. This needs to be. Why are you completely facing back? Please. Thank you. Face for it. I need you for protection, buddy. Um, Okay, so all along, the budget set in this graph. Um, Giving up one burger means gaining 4 bus tickets. The vertical axis in the figure shows burger prices. Blah blah blah. Alfonso spends all his money on burgers. He can afford 5 per week, 10 per week, $2 per burger, 5 burgers per week. Um, with no money left for bus tickets. Point A in the figure shows 0 bus tickets and 5 burgers. Alternatively, point F shows 20 bus tickets and 0 burgers. If we connect all the points between A and F, we get Alfonso's budget constraint. Okay, this indicates all the combination of burgers and bus tickets. So that's scarcity, right? We're looking at scarcity right now. He only has $10. That's a graph looking at $10. That's the scarcity problem right there, right? Because we want more, we need more. It's the scarcity dilemma, or the idea of scarcity, I suppose. If we connect all points, this indicates that the combination of burgers and bus tickets, all the combinations, right. So then budget constraint is a model showing the dynamic of scarcity on a graph. I'm putting that in my notes. Budget constraint. Voy a usar límite de presupuesto. I want to be wanted like Carmen. Any guy would offer you heaven. Okay. Okay. Most people choose some combination that includes both. He will choose some combination on the budget constraint that is between A and F. And that's the other thing too. Like, this is a graph that we like naturally form in our brains, and we just kind of make decisions. It's interesting to put it onto like a physical space, right? Every point on or inside the constraint, el límite, shows a combination of burgers and bus tickets that Alfonso can afford. Any point outside the constraint is not affordable because it would cost more money than he has. The budget constraint clearly shows the trade-off he faces in choosing between the two. Suppose he is currently on point D, where he can afford 12 bus tickets and 2 burgers. What would it cost Alfonso for one more burger? To say 2 because that's the way economists think. Instead, but that's not the way economistas think. We ask, how many bus tickets would Alfonso have to give up to get one more burger? Right. Because we've already mapped out all the possible ways to spend that money, so there's no need to be like, oh, it just costs more dollars because it's a trade-off. Oh, because we exist in an environment of scarcity where what was the definition of? I think I might have put it here somewhere else. There's a real interesting definition of scarcity that I read here somewhere that I did not make a note of. If I see it again, I'll do that. Alfonso would have to give up 4 to afford one more burger. That is the true cost to Alfonso. Interesting. Wow. That's pretty cool. I like that. I like that. Okay, opportunity cost. Okay. Everybody's throwing their heart in. Any God would offer you heaven. Voice cracking. Not warmed up yet. Costo de oportunidad. Okay. What is it? What people must give up to attain what they desire. And okay, so if you're talking to like pre-econ class me, I wouldn't like that because it feels limiting, right? And I don't like to be limited. Now that I'm in this class, it makes sense. The idea behind opportunity cost uh, is the cost of one item is the lost opportunity to do or consume something else. Dude, too real. Too real. That applies to life, right? Are you just going to be satisfied being a FedEx worker, or are you going to go to school and put in the hard work? And you might think, and so for a lot of people, that hard work is not worth the cost because it's a cost to them. And that's where we get, into like the juicy psychology that I like, because we can change our perspectives. Like the hard work is not going to change. Like they're right, it is hard work. It's their ability to go through the hard work that we can affect. God fucking damn it, I'm good. Um, in theory, el costo de un artículo es la oportunidad perdida de hacer o consumir otra cosa. Um, la oportunidad que se pierde de hacer o consumir otra cosa. El costo de un artículo es la oportunidad. Can I find a better word for item, please? Artículo, elemento, ítem. Artículo, objeto. ¿Por qué me está diciendo artículo así? Ay. Artículo, por favor. Ayúdame. Internet. Hmm, hmm. Pues sí, estamos hablando de empresas. Artículo. El costo de un artículo es la oportunidad perdida de hacer o consumir otra cosa. De hacer, consumir o comprar. In short, opportunity cost is the value of the next best alternative. El valor de la oportunidad siguiente. El valor de la siguiente mejor alternativa. El valor de la siguiente mejor alternativa. The opportunity cost of a burger is the 4 bus tickets he would have to give up. He would decide whether or not to choose the burger, depending on whether the value of the burger exceeds the value of the foregone alternative. That's where depression is a bitch, right? Because let's say that bus, right? He was gonna take it to go to college. He needs those bus tickets to attend his college classes. If he feels disillusioned about the future, which also affects how people invest in economies. Thank you, John. Fucking Caney's or whatever for putting that out there way back then. Um, then he's gonna buy the burger because that's what's gonna be valuable to him. And in terms of the opportunity cost model, there's no right or wrong. It's just the choice that he made. This is so tough. This is so tough, man. And then if you're saying, well, then fuck education, I'm just gonna eat this burger. That opportunity cost of the next best alternative is a clouded decision because college is more valuable than the burger is. It's gonna bring you more money in the future, dude. Oh my god. Oh, depression sucks, bro. Oh no. That's why, as a licensed clinical social worker, you got to be adverse in so many different fields because they all fucking combine to play a role in the people's mental states. In this case, bus tickets. Since yeah, let's keep it G, let's keep it PG. Um, since people must choose, they inevitably face trade-offs in which they have to give up things they desire to obtain other things they desire more. Damn, playing that long game, right? Sheesh. Okay, let's visit this website then. It's from the Wall Street Journal, of course. Is this a video or an article? It says visit this website for an example of opportunity cost. It was sub-freezing Friday night, and I wanted a romantic dinner with my husband. Uh, when we arrived at Emilio's Bayato, a buzzy, no reservations Italian joint in Manhattan, the wait for the table was as daunting as a Taylor Swift ticket queue. Shivering on the sidewalk for hours seemed a poor start to date night. So I hired someone to do the time for us. paying someone to wait in line for you, that's how they choose to spend their money. And if there's people to fill that need, then from an economic standpoint, there's no problem there. It's just, what if the person is overqualified to be standing in line? There's no shame in the side hustle, and any way to make money is any way to make money. It's just, what if? I guess I'm always just thinking about, like, from the perspective of the person paying. Like, is it worth it to them? What if they should just stand in line and not pay up that? And then it's not it's their choice. That's the thing, though, and it's like so sucky too, because it's like, well, if you can see that someone is choosing to take drugs, like, well, that's a different case, right? Because then that's severe mental. It's just, where is that line between not judging someone for their choices and intervening because you know that your judgment is better? I don't know. I don't know. That's probably a really weird way of looking at it. Um. And then I just had another thought. What if you let your family pay you to stay in line, and then they use that against you in some way, like, oh, well, I paid you to stand in line, and it's like, oh man, this is all just so fucking shitty. My brain, it's already hurting. I'm not even halfway done with this shit. I need to keep going. Oh my god, I'm actually reading this article. Holy shit. He was still waiting in line by the time they. So, like, the line was just so much that even if they paid someone to stay in the line, he was still waiting like that. Well, they say more in the money loss. Well, I mean, that could have been you. So you did save time in a way. That's so brilliant. Ah, my brain is hurting. I need people to talk to. Like, I need to be bouncing those ideas back and forth. Shout outs to Brenda, because I was talking with you about this last night. And it was fun for me to be able to speak my thoughts. A fundamental principle of economics is that every choice has an opportunity cost. Right, right, right. If you sleep through your economics class, the opportunity cost is the learning you miss from not attending class. If you spend your income on video games, you cannot spend it on movies. If you choose to marry one person, you give up the opportunity to marry anyone else. Damn. Whew. In short, opportunity cost is all around us and part of human existence. Hmm. I'm on page 42. I'm clicking this link. And they sent me back to Apex A, so I'm glad that I took a little break when I did. Opportunity cost. I'm reading this whole Rise Over Run thing. I'm a little lost. I'm finding my way back. How would that... So that's a decreasing slope then. In the example of the burgers and the tickets. Wherein the line represents the money. It wouldn't make sense going the other way because then that would represent the money increasing. The money has to be decreasing because you're spending it. It's a set value. A vertical line has an infinite slope. Shout outs to hitting an hour. An hour of study. And that's another thing grants have to take into consideration when they're paying you, right? The time you spend in class is time you could be spent making some money. So they're like, okay, if you don't have a degree, the money you could be making to be taking class, we would calculate like what's the minimum wage then, right? And then like give that to you. Damn, that's crazy. Suppose the demand for personal pizzas is given by the following equation. QD equals 16 minus 2P, where QD is the amount of personal pizzas consumers want to buy, i.e. the quantity demanded, and P is the price of pizzas. Suppose the supply of personal pizzas is QS equals 2 plus 5P, where Q's is the amount of pizza producers will supply, quantity supplied. Finally, suppose that the personal pizza market operates where supply equals demand, or QD equals QS. We now have a system of three equations and three unknowns, QD, QS, and P, which we can solve with algebra. Since QD equals QS, we can set the demand and supply equation equal to each other. which would mean those two equations are equal to each other. That's the part I really, really do like about math, is how that shit fits in. Subtracting 2 from both sides and adding 2p to both sides yields q minus 2p minus 2. Subtracting 2 from both sides and adding 2p to both sides. And adding p to... Wait, I don't get that. Wouldn't the minus 2p just like cancel each other? And that's not what I'm seeing here at all. Jesus. Okay. Well, let's just keep going then. Okay, so 16 minus 2p minus 2 equals 2 plus 5p minus 2. 14 minus 2p equals 5p. 14 minus 2p plus 2. Oh, so they're just like breaking it down one at a time? Oh, that's interesting. So then, yeah, you would get 14 equals 7p. Divide 7, and then you get 2 equals p. In other words, the price of each personal pizza will be $2. How much will consumers buy? Taking the price of 2 and plugging it into the demand equation, so if the price is $2 each, consumers will purchase 12. How much will producers supply? Plugging it into the equation of QS, right, they would be balanced, equal 12. So if the price is 2, producers will supply 12 personal pizzas. This means we did our math correctly, since QD equals 2S. Okay, what page did I say we're on? 43, right? Oh. Okay, work it out. We're in the work it out section now. I'll work it out. I'll work it out. Ding, 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 ding. Alright, 5 minutes past an hour. You know what? It's time to get up. It's time to get up. I'm gonna lift a little bit of weight real quick just to get the blood pumping. Bang, baby. I'm handling business at work, being a responsible man, making good choices based on what I know about health, and shout outs to Zora for helping me help myself make good decisions. So during my little break, which was a second for the video, because I did hit pause as if I need to elaborate, and I did anyways. I got my heart rate up, and I was also starting a new anime book. Whee! This one's called Black Bullet, and I think I'm gonna like it. Understanding budget constraints. Okay. Restricción prepropuesta. Presupuesto. 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 Ok. Presupuesto. Budget constraints are easy to understand if you apply a little math. The equation for any budget constraint is budget equals P1 times X1 plus P2 times X2. That seems important. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. We're going to put that in our notes. After a quick translation. Okay, control paste. La ecuación Bum, bum, ba, 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 bum, ba, 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 bum. I am typing in the equation now. Allow me time to do so. Price and quantity. Step 2. Apply the budget constraint equation to the scenario. In Alfonso's case, this works out to be $10 equals $2 per burger times the quantity of burgers plus the price of the ticket times the quantity of bus tickets. Using a little algebra, we can turn this into the familiar equation line. What's so familiar about it? Let's see. Oh, y equals b plus mx. $2 times the amount of burgers plus the price of the tickets. Simplify the equation. Begin by multiplying both sides of the equation by 2. 2 times 10 equals 20. So it'd be 20 equals 4 times quantity of burgers plus 1 times the quantity of bus tickets. Subtract 1 bus ticket from both sides. Okay, I pause here because when they multiplied each side by 2, they technically multiplied one side of the equation by 4. Because there's a numerical value for the price of burgers and the price of tickets. You multiply both those prices by 2. And then if you subtract a bus ticket, I mean, you can only subtract a bus ticket from one thing, so that's where math gets stupid and finicky. And then you gotta look at math the way Mother Nature looks at evolution, which is like, the goal is not to be perfect, the goal is to get you to the next step. So, there you go. I'm paying a lot of attention to this equation, and I probably don't need to. I need to like keep it moving, keep it going. But I see what they did. They subtracted 1 bus ticket from both sides. Still. I guess you can get away with it because you're subtracting a bus ticket, not necessarily a 1. Oh, God, looking at graphs, talking about maths, thinking a lot. Notice that the slope of a budget constraint always shows the opportunity cost of the good, which is on the horizontal axis. the opportunity cost of the good, of the bien, of the artículo. My brain hurts. So for every bus ticket he buys, he must give up 1/4 of a burger. It's afraid. What if you go to the counter? It's like, listen, I need 2 tickets, and I also want a burger. I can't have 1 burger and 2 tickets because it cost me 4 tickets. So how about I don't need 4 tickets? So how about you just give me half a burger? Right. The algebraic sign of the slope is negative, which means that the only way to get more of one good is to give up some of the other. Second, we define the slope as the price of bus tickets, or whatever is on the horizontal axis in the graph, divided by the price of burgers, or whatever is on the x-axis. So x divided by y is the slope. So if you want to find the opportunity cost, okay. Quiero traducir esa oración en inglés. Para obtener más de un bien, es necesario renunciar a parte del otro. Obtener más de un bien implica renunciar a parte del otro. Para conseguir okay, aquí. Para conseguir más de un bien, tienes que renunciar a algo del otro. Tienes que renunciar a parte del otro. Mm. The slope. So in other words, the slope of the graph is the opportunity cost. Hmm. How many burgers can go into a bus ticket? 0.25. Hmm. Identifying opportunity cost. In many cases, it is reasonable, and we're at 23 minutes, so damn, it's already almost been half an hour. Jesus Christ, a lot of thinking here, a lot of thinking. Thank God I don't have to go to work today. Woo. Opportunity cost, right? The money that I could have been making, right? Ah! In many cases, it is reasonable to refer to the opportunity cost as the price. What's the price? Okay, if your cousin buys a new bicycle for $300, then $300 measures the amount of other consumption that he has forsaken. Oh, okay. So, más simplemente. Más simple. Más simple. For practical purposes, there may be no special need to identify the specific alternative product. Alternativa. Producto alternativa. Alternativa. Right? That's how you would say it, right? I just want to double check. I know. This is more work than I need to do. Product. Producto alternativo. Alternativo. Alternative product, or products that he could have bought with that 300. But sometimes the price, as measured in dollars, may not accurately capture the true opportunity cost. This problem can loom especially large when costs of time are involved. Right. Because you could say that the cost of tuition for a school would be the opportunity cost, that you're leaving a lot of factors out of it because of what the opportunities school itself could have brought you. Very cool. And making my brain hurt. For example, consider a boss who decides that all employees will attend a 2-day retreat to build team spirit. The out-of-pocket monetary cost of the event may involve hiring an outside consulting firm to run the retreat, as well as room and board for all participants. However, an opportunity cost exists as well. During the 2 days of the retreat, none of the employees are doing any other work. Attending college is another case where the opportunity cost exceeds the monetary cost. The monetary cost. Right, is another case where the opportunity cost exceeds the monetary cost. The out-of-pocket costs of attending college include tuition, books, room and board, and other expenses. However, in addition, during the hours that you are attending class and studying, it is impossible to work at a paying job. Hello, right now. Thus, college imposes both an out-of-pocket cost and an opportunity cost of lost earnings. Deal. Yeah. And I suppose like the argument for like, okay, so then if grants can cover the cost of college, what about the cost of like earning an income? And it's like, well, we don't need to pay for that for you because you're going to use that to pay for college anyway. So you have to handle that shit on your own. And why do we think like this? Because we live in scarcity. Money doesn't, quote unquote, grow on trees. Money trees. Interesting. 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 God damn it. A lot of brain power. A lot of thinking. What is the opportunity cost associated with increased airport security measures? After the terrorist plane hijackings on September 11th, many steps were proposed to improve air travel safety. For example, the federal government could provide armed sky marshals who would travel inconspicuously with the rest of the passengers. The cost of having a sky marshal on every flight would be roughly $3 billion per year. Wow. Wow. And so like what they ended up doing, I think, was that they would just hire marshals, sky marshals, to attend to be on some of those flights sometimes. And the idea was that it was enough of a frequency that it would act as a deterrent. Fucking interesting. Do I have tissue here? Because my nose is a drip. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so this is interesting. So the single biggest cost of these like improved security is the additional waiting time at the airport. Crazy. Right, so if you're spending an extra 30 minutes in the airport per trip, that's what's the opportunity cost there, right? If that was 30 minutes, right? So conservative estimates set the average price of time for air travelers at $20 per hour. Here's where we put those equations in, huh? Um, the opportunity cost of delays in airports can be as much as 800 million times 0.5 hours times $20 an hour, or 8 billion per year. I'm gonna make a note of that too. Uh, Opportunity costs of waiting time. In Spanish, please. Los costos de oportunidad del tiempo de espera. Los costos de oportunidad del tiempo de espera. Del tiempo de espera pueden ser tan importantes como los costos que implican gastos directos. So then in this way, no estamos hablando de dinero. Like if you're looking at tickets, you're not looking at money. You're looking at, oh, this 4 tickets cost one burger. One burger costs 4 tickets. You're not thinking about, oh, one burger costs $2 and one ticket costs 50 cents. You're looking at it that it's an opportunity cost. Hmm. Realizing the opportunity to cost can alter behavior. That's for damn sure. Imagine, for example, that you spend 8 on lunch every day at work. $8. You may know perfectly well that bringing your lunch from home would cost only $3 a day. So the opportunity cost of buying lunch at the restaurant is 5 each day. Okay, so I need to work on being able to come up with these figures on my own. Because right now I'm just like depending on this book to like put that into perspective for me. Okay, let's go back to the appendix. See if we can't get our practice up real quick. We're at 136, yeah. So so then in this case, the given is lunch. Okay. So in this case, the given is lunch. So then lunch, in the scenario with the burgers and the tickets, money was the constant, right? And this one, having lunch is the constant. Some days you might not have lunch. Well, then that would be a different graph. Damn. Damn. I'm having so many thoughts go through my mind right now. Okay, let's go back. So then the two variables would be lunch from home and lunch from a restaurant. So you may know perfectly well that bringing a lunch from home would only cost 3. The opportunity cost of buying lunch at the restaurant is 5 because you spend 8 on lunch every day. So that's assuming a lot of fixed prices there, which is necessary when teaching basic concepts, right? It's just that those prices aren't always steady. So assuming, right? So what would be on the x-axis and what would be on the y-axis? I would just be guessing. I would think that lunch from home would be on the... Would you even use the same type of graph though? Let's keep reading. Um, $5 each day does not seem to be that much. Okay, what that adds up, projecting what that adds up to a year. Okay, so the projected number of that in a year minus the 250 days a year that you work, I guess, times $5 per day. Okay. Okay, so opportunity cost alters behavior. El costo de oportunidad puede alterar el comportamiento. Comportamiento. Marginal decision making and diminishing marginal utility. The budget constraint framework helps to emphasize that most choices in the real world are not about getting all of one thing or all of another. They are not about choosing either the point at one end of the budget constraint or the point all the way at the other end. Instead, most choices involve marginal analysis. Looking at my notes real quick. Capítulo 2. Estudiando. Análisis marginal significa examinar los beneficios y costos de elegir un poco más o un poco menos de un bien. El análisis
marginal es el examen de los beneficios y costos de elegir un poco más o un poco menos de un bien.
Eso. El análisis marginal. People naturally just spinning around, just all you do is spin around, and apparently I just freak out. People naturally compare cost and benefits. When we look at the total cost and total benefits, the optimal choice necessitates comparing how cost and benefits change from one option to another. Yeah, that's what I was mentioning más temprano. You might think of marginal analysis as change analysis. Oh. Control copy. Control paste.
La elección óptima requiere comparar cómo cambian los costos y beneficios de una opción a otra.
Espérame. El examen de los beneficios y costos de elegir un poco más o un poco menos de un bien para hacer el examen de los beneficios y costos de elegir un poco más, un poco menos de un bien para hacer la elección óptima. Requiere requiere comparar cómo cambian los costos y beneficios de una opción a otra. Interesting. Oh. You might think of marginal analysis as change analysis. Marginal analysis is used throughout economics. We now turn to the notion of utility. People desire goods and services for the satisfaction or utility those goods and services provide. Utiliza? Is that how you say it? Utility. Utilidad. Mm. Mm-hmm. Damn it. Word is freaking out on me. It's crashing out, man. It's crashing out. Now I need to wait. Opportunity cost. El costo de oportunidad. El análisis marginal, el examen de los beneficios y costos de elegir un poco más o un poco menos de un bien. La elección óptima requiere comparar cómo cambian los costos y beneficios de una opción a otra. Utilidad. Economistas asumen que el más que consumen uno de un bien, lo demás utilidad obtiene a uno. Not sure if that's how you say it. mm, Diminishing returns. Okay. I'm working hard. The general pattern that consumption. Uh, the general pattern that consumption of the first few units of any good tends to bring is of a higher level of utility. Okay. Okay. En español, por favor.
El consumo de las primeras unidades de cualquier bien tiende a otorgar a una persona un nivel de utilidad mayor que el consumo de unidades posteriores. Consumir las primeras unidades de cualquier producto suele dar más satisfacción que consumir las siguientes. El consumo de las primeras unidades de cualquier bien tiende a proporcionar un nivel de utilidad más alto a una persona que el consumo de unidades posteriores. Consumir las primeras unidades de cualquier producto suele dar más satisfacción que consumir las siguientes. El consumo de las primeras unidades de cualquier bien tiende a proporcionar un nivel de utilidad más alto a una persona que el consumo de unidades posteriores.
Voy a usar eso. Eso es lo que quiero usar para mi nota. There's multiple ways I can write it. Proporcionar. Okay, so that's our number 2. You know, I am making it harder on myself translating it into Spanish too. It's just, I don't see any other way of practicing Spanish. Sad, huh? Alright, so I'm gonna end this video now. I think I'm gonna keep going for a little bit after. I'm gonna make myself something to eat. I'm gonna come back later. Before I was about to like end the video though, I did read this one thing and I just want to say it right now. So the law of diminishing marginal utility, right? Um, the combination of all leisure and no income, even though some leisure is nice, is not attractive because no income. So the idea was like, okay, well, then is the dream to have leisure be your income? And then I thought, well, that kind of goes against the law of scarcity, right? If something is valuable in society, that's because there's not an infinite supply of it, right? Like air is valuable, or is it? There's an infinite supply of air. We breathe it. So the law of like diminishing marginal utility doesn't really apply there, right? So if you use leisure to spend your time, the law of diminishing marginal utility means you're gonna want to get your ass to work, right? So how do you find that balance? And the truth is, like, it changes, right? Like we were saying earlier, um, los costos de wait, what were we looking at here? Sí, ok. El examen de los beneficios y costos de elegir un poco más o un poco menos de un bien. La elección óptima requiere comparar cómo cambian los costos y beneficios de una opción a otra. So like that's gonna the ley de la utilidad marginal decreciente plays a factor in that. You you don't want all your leisure time because it's gonna not be as um, satisfactory, and then you don't want to work all the time. But sometimes you are gonna need to have work to afford something because of the opportunity cost of like going on a vacation, right? So how do we make these decisions, right? Like that goes back to chapter 1, right? It's a ver, tomando decisiones y procesando información. Cada sociedad en todos los niveles tiene que decidir cómo usar sus recursos. So there you go. This all plays a factor in it. Damn. So shout out to Adam Smith for like laying the groundwork, I guess, for the study of this shit. Even though he probably stole it from some Native Americans, straight up. I enjoy leisure shall never work. Well, the cost, the opportunity cost, the law of diminishing marginal utility would say differently. The budget constraint framework suggests that when people make choices in a world of scarcity, they will use marginal analysis and think about whether they would prefer a little more or a little less. Oh, okay. That's it. I'm at 2 hours, my longest video yet. Peace.